Hello there, I'm Emma Tracey and I'm the host of Access All, the BBC's podcast all about disability and mental health news and stories. You can hear all episodes of our podcast on BBC Sounds with transcriptions, and we will put a link to that under this video in the description. This signed version of the podcast is a chat with Tanyalee Davis, who's a comedian, and she calls herself the Ferrari of comedy because at 3 feet 3 inches tall, she's pretty low to the ground, and she says she's kind of racy. So you're Canadian, born in Canada.
Yes.
You live in America.
Yep, also American.
You're back in the UK touring your Tanyalee Unstoppable Me show. What's that show about?
So it's called Tanyalee Unstoppable Me, and a lot's changed since the last time I was here. I'm kind of a new person. I have a new lease on life, and it's up. I guess when you hit a certain age in life, a lot of self-reflection. I'm 53 now, and I look back at my life, and I see pivotal points in my life, like my parents being two tall people, having a dwarf child. They had no idea what I was capable of, so they never limited me. They never told me I could not do something. So I was always encouraged to do everything. So I played every sport, and growing up in school, of course, I was bullied, but I always had the determination of I will show you. And so that's kind of how my life has evolved. And then when I lived here in the UK, I was kind of told every day that I couldn't. You're disabled. You can't do that. Why are you by yourself? You're disabled. You should have a carer. And after about 4 years of that, I kind of, I guess, believed it. And I didn't realize that it really beat me down until I was forced to, with the lockdown, forced to move away, and ended up, having some downtime and just, decompressing, but then getting on social media, and everybody wanted to talk about my problems and my challenges. And I went, why do you want to talk about my struggles when I've done so many incredible things with my life? So that, the Tanyalee Unstoppable Me mantra was sort of born from that. I realized my entire life I just believed I could. So the show is basically chronicling my life stories, my adventures around the world, just getting on with it, not being, not making excuses, not having a victim mentality, and just having a sense of humor to life's crazy situations that you come across when you're in a 3 foot 3 inch body traveling around the world. This show is so personal to me. It is and it's needed. We need inspiration. We need motivation. We need to inspire our younger people to want to achieve their personal greatness, because right now our younger people have a very victim mentality. Do
you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
all younger people or just disabled younger people?
No, actually, I'm not even thinking about disabled people. I don't gear my content to disabled people. That's the thing. I always played to sort of, I guess, what we call mainstream audiences. And so therefore if you look at it as a non-disabled person seeing a dwarf, they're just like, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine living in your body, right? And then there's me, parasailing and scuba diving and doing all these amazing things. So that's how I put my content out there.
Disabled people have been doing that for years. These motivational speakers, these disabled blokes climbing mountains. Are you the same as those people climbing mountains? Have you gone that way?
Well, I guess in a way, inspiration porn, they call it, right?
Yeah.
But I think it's necessary right now. I really honestly do. Because I know the reaction I get from people. And they in general, people, when they see a little person, and they, because I'm like doing videos, I go live showing myself cooking and cleaning and doing housework, and people are like, why are you doing that? Why isn't your husband helping you? I'm like, because I'm quite capable of doing it myself.
You feel like you have to do these back to basic videos.
But I do it with a sense of humor, though. This is the thing. I'm not taking it seriously like I'm forcibly trying to shove it down your throats. I'm like, this is my reality. I laugh my way through these hilarious situations.
Just for people who don't know, what is inspiration porn?
It's a term that people like that are climbing mountains and stuff like that, or the Paralympics, Oh, look at them, they're struggling. And
So it's like people watching disabled people doing things or having a nice, cute moment makes them feel better.
Yeah.
And makes them feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah. In a way, I really don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, recently somebody on Twitter said that I had toxic positivity, which I was like, is that a thing? So I'm too happy and it's making people uncomfortable. So that's where we are as a society. Come on.
But don't they mean toxic positivity as in positivity even when there isn't anything to be positive about, or positivity where it makes other people in similar situations to you wonder, think about, why can't I do that? And I feel a bit disappointed in myself that I can't do that. And why can't I when she can?
It's not my responsibility on how other people react to my videos. So if somebody says that, first of all, my take is, wow, how is it possible that we can have too much positivity? Like, that to me is like, wow, trying to stifle somebody being happy, number one. And number two, if you're not doing what you can to your best ability, then that's a you problem. Everybody, whether you're disabled or not, everybody has challenges. Everybody has mental health problems, anxiety, depression, because we're all human beings. But if you focus on one particular either emotion like depression or anxiety, and you're just focusing on that all the time, then you're going to lose yourself. You have to find that balance within yourself. But people are so focused now on their mental health problems and stuff like that, and they need to kind of think outside of themselves a little bit. Realize that you are capable of doing a lot of things despite having anxiety, despite having depression, or being disabled or whatever. But I feel like I'm getting backlash. And I'm like, okay, well, this is obviously because we were brought up different ways. I was empowered my entire life. But after living here, I realized that a lot of disabled people are not empowered living over here. I was, like I said, stifled. And
so in what way were you stifled? So you mentioned train drama. What happened there?
Oh, good Lord. So I have a mobility scooter, which in this country is not considered a wheelchair.
So there's different rules for a scooter.
They think of sort of like these big, huge four-wheeler things. Like, actually in Scotland, they said a mobility scooter is an alternative form of public transportation. So it's not like I'm going to be driving that on the M1, beep, beep. So it fits quite safely in a train, in the wheelchair spot or on the buses and stuff like that. But they put, they don't go by a case-by-case situation. So that, and then, just in general, like taxi drivers, if I'm on my scooter trying to get a black taxi, they won't stop. I have to get somebody else to wave the taxi down. I hide. Then the taxi stops. I'm like, open the door. And then they'll open the door and I'll come springing out. And you can just see the taxi driver like, now I got to get up. And they
get the ramp out.
Yeah, they visibly let you know that you're an inconvenience on the regular in this country, I find.
And does that not happen in other countries?
No, I mean, I've been all over the world. And in general, like in the Philippines, there's very little accessibility in the Philippines. But the people are so accommodating. Like we went on a trip and they got my scooter and we had to get on at first it was a coach for hours. Then we got off the coach, had to walk across the sand to a boat, get on a boat, and then get to an island where we got on a little van. And I had these guys just basically like, okay, what do you need? Pick up the scooter, carry it across, put it up onto the boat, made sure, scooped me up the way I needed it and did that. And nobody batted an eye. They just said, how can we help?
So you didn't mind being scooped up because you do jokes about not being picked up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's if you're not. Yes, you got to ask first. You can't just randomly go picking up little people. That's no.
Because there's dwarf tossing, or there was years ago.
Well, there's still in America. There's dwarf wrestling, the dwarfinators or something. And I mean, listen, I'm all about personal choice. If you want to do that, that's you're taking the risk. That's who am I to tell somebody else how to live their life? That's how I am.
Are you talking about if a dwarf wants to get a dwarf? I just called someone a dwarf. I don't do it. That's not what I...
But we are a dwarf.
If a little person or whatever they would describe themselves as chooses to be part of that, you're not judging them.
No, absolutely not. I believe that being offended is a choice. So I don't get caught up on semantics and terminology anymore. I think it's a waste of energy. We have a lot more, and I realize now we live in a culture where everybody's got to have, labels and stuff like that. I'm kind of like, whatever, just focus on what you can do to be your best.
Shall we talk about your TikTok experience? Why did you decide to go on TikTok in the first place?
Well, like many people, it happened during the lockdown because, I couldn't do shows. I could not perform. And as a performer, I've been doing, at that point, I was coming up on 30 years. 2020 was my 30th anniversary. So not being able to perform, I knew mentally that was going to mess me up. So I had to be doing something creative. So a friend of mine, when I actually lived, we spent 4 months in Norwich when the lockdown happened. So I started doing dance videos on Facebook or and YouTube, just saying, hey, everybody, I'm going to put on an 80s song. I put on Let's Get Physical with Olivia Newton-John. I put my pants over my leggings. I put a sweatband on, and I just sat there on my step stool and bounced around and to one song a day, trying to get my endorphins going and trying to inspire other people just to move a little bit because it'll help with your mental health since we're all locked down. And I kept getting copyright infringements. So a friend said, you need to get on TikTok. And I was like, what is this thing called TikTok? I did like 1 or 2 videos, then I put it down. Then I moved to Florida and did a couple of videos, and I gained a bit of following. My first ever viral video was kind of a joke about the Villages, which is a retirement community near where my parents lived, and they have the largest sexually transmitted disease rate of anywhere in the world, this old people community. The joke went viral. So I was like, I can do some of my material on TikTok. And so between that and my dances and then talking about my clothes, and then it's just been this constant evolution of, content.
Tanyalee Davis, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.